In a sun-scorched Texas town, one man's coin buys a girl's freedom, but can it buy her heart? The summer of 1874 hung heavy over Willow Bend, Texas, where the sun blazed like a preacher's sermon, scorching the earth to cracked clay. Dust swirled in the air, coating the weathered storefronts of the town's trading post. A chaotic sprawl of wagons, bleating goats, and voices bartering for flour and nails. Beneath the clamor, a girl stood motionless, a ghost amid the living. Emily, 18, wore a faded calico dress, its hem frayed to threads clinging to her slender frame. Her auburn hair, once vibrant, lay tangled against her sunburned neck, framing hazel eyes that stared at the dirt. A faint bruise shadowed her jaw, and her wrists bore the pink sting of rough handling. In her sleeve, hidden from prying eyes, a tarnished brass locket pressed against her skin, a relic of a mother long gone. Since sunrise, her stepmother, a gaunt woman with pinched lips, hawk-like gray eyes, and a stained gray bonnet, had paraded her through the crowd. "She's strong enough," the woman barked, shoving Emily toward a trader. "Pretty, too. Look at her, worth $1 or $2. A few glanced over. A grizzled rancher spat into the dust. "Pretty don't plow fields. She work or just stand." "There?" Another, whiskey on his breath, leered. "Maybe she's good for a bed, not a barn." Emily's fingers tightened at her sides, nails biting her palms, but her lips stayed sealed, cracked and dry. The stepmother's patience snapped. "Useless girl," she hissed, yanking Emily's arm. "Stand tall or I'll make you." When Emily didn't move, the woman's hand cracked across her face, sending her stumbling into the dirt, a small cloud rising where she fell. Emily bit back a gasp, pushing up on trembling hands, her cheek stinging. The market's buzz faltered, then surged on. Another soul for sale. Nothing new in Willow Bend. But a shadow fell across the dust and the crowd parted. Jesse Kalin, 34, stepped forward, his boots steady on the uneven ground. Tall and wiry, his olive skin gleamed with sweat under a battered black Stetson. His chestnut eyes, sharp as flint, scanned the scene, his short sandy beard framing, a jaw set hard. A navy flannel shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, revealed arms roped with muscle from years of roping cattle. His denim trousers, patched at the knees, tucked into worn leather boots, and a small tin box hung from his belt, clinking faintly. "How much for her?" Jesse's voice was low, cutting through the noise like a whip. The stepmother spun, startled. $2. She's yours, but she's lazy, eats more than she earns." Jesse's gaze flicked to Emily, still kneeling, her auburn hair catching the sun. "She yours?" he asked. "Stepdaughter," the woman sneered. "Her ma's dead. Been trouble since." Jesse's eyes lingered on Emily. No tears, just a quiet defiance in her stillness. He unhooked the tin box, tossing 2 silver coins into the woman's greedy hands. "Take it and go." The stepmother clutched the coins, hesitating. "You don't want her back?" "I said go," Jesse repeated, his tone steel. She muttered a curse and vanished into the throng, leaving dust in her wake. Jesse crouched beside Emily, his shadow shielding her from the sun. "You hurt bad?" he asked. She shook her head, slow, eyes on the ground. "Can you stand?" Another nod. "Then do it." Emily rose, unsteady, her locket shifting in her sleeve. Jesse's hand hovered near her arm, ready but not touching, as she steadied herself. "I ain't your savior," he said, voice firm but not cruel. "I run a ranch 10 miles out. You'll scrub floors, mend fences, cook supper. I don't need thanks. I need work. Clear?" Emily's lips parted, but no sound came. She nodded again. Jesse's eyes softened, just a fraction. "You'll have a bed, food, a roof. Better than this hellhole." He turned to his horse, a sturdy sorrel mare named Juniper, and swung into the saddle. He extended a hand. "Come on or stay. Your choice." Emily hesitated, her fingers brushing the locket's outline. The crowd's jeers echoed in her ears. She took his hand, calloused but steady, and climbed behind him. Jesse nudged Juniper forward, the mare's hooves kicking up dust as they left. Willow Bend's chaos behind. The horizon stretched wide, a promise and a threat. Emily's arms rested lightly around Jessie's waist, her breath uneven. For the first time in months, no one was shouting, no one was striking her. But the ranch awaited, a place of labor, not love, under a man whose heart seemed as hard as the Texas clay. Can Emily prove her worth to Jessie, or will his cold demands break her spirit before it begins to heal? Twilight draped Willow Bend, Texas in a veil of amber and ash. The summer of 1874 unrelenting even as the sun dipped low. Jesse Kalin's ranch, 10 miles from town, stood solitary against a parched horizon, its barn weathered gray, its fences sagging under time's weight. Inside the squat cedar house, a single oil lamp glowed, casting warmth on rough-hewn walls. Emily, 18, stood at a chipped wooden counter, her faded calico dress clinging to her sweat-dampened skin, her auburn hair tangled and loose, framed hazel eyes wide with nerves. The bruise on her jaw had softened to a faint mark, but her hands trembled as she kneaded dough, the brass locket in her sleeve a quiet anchor to a mother's memory. Her first day at the ranch had begun with resolve, but it unraveled like a dropped stitch. At dawn, she'd tripped over a feed bucket, spilling grain across the porch, the chickens squawking in chaos. Then, scrubbing pots, her fingers, raw from lye, let a tin cup slip, denting it against the floor. Jesse's son, Sam, 6, watched from the hall, his chestnut curls framing silent brown eyes. "I'm just here to help," Emily stammered, her voice too eager. Jesse, hauling a saddle through the door, paused, his navy flannel shirt taut across his shoulders. His chestnut eyes flickered, then hardened, and he strode past without a word, leaving her apology to hang in the air. Now, as dusk settled, Emily carried a basket of laundry from the barn, her bare feet catching on a loose plank. The basket tipped, linens tumbling into the dust. She gasped, dropping to her knees, but a shadow loomed. Jesse stepped from the barn, his black Stetson low, olive skin gleaming under the fading light. "This ain't a charity house," he said, voice sharp as a spur. "I paid for hands that work, not ones that scatter my linens like chaff." He pointed to the stable. "Horses need water. Do it right, or you're no use to me." Emily's throat tightened, her fingers clutching the locket's outline. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't apologize," Jesse snapped. "Prove you're worth keepin'." She nodded, scrambling to the stable, the air thick with hay and musk. For hours she hauled buckets, her arms burning, skirt soaked with sweat. By nightfall she sank beside the water pump, splashing her face, then curled up behind the barn, knees to her chest. Her breaths came ragged, stifling tears. The stars blinked above, cold and distant, whispering she'd fail. Unseen, Jesse stood at the house's corner, his boots silent. The lamp's glow caught his sandy beard, his jaw tight. Crickets hummed. A horse snorted softly, but he didn't speak. After a moment, he slipped inside, the door's creak swallowed by the night. Dawn broke, and Emily entered the washroom, pausing. On a shelf lay a folded wool blanket, its edges soft, dyed indigo. Beside it, a pair of worn leather shoes, small enough for her feet, sturdy despite their scuffs. No note, no explanation. Later, as she stacked firewood, Jesse approached, tossing a tin cup onto the pile. "Found it in the loft," he muttered, avoiding her gaze. "Use it, your hands are bleedin'." Emily blinked, her blistered fingers hesitating. "Take it," he said, turning away before she could reply. His orders still came brisk. "Chop the kindling finer, sweep the porch clean," but his voice carried less bite. At supper he sat longer, his fork idle until she took her last bite of cornbread. Days later they rode to Willow Bend's market, Sam trailing behind, his patched brown shirt loose on his small frame. Emily clutched a list, her shoes pinching, but steady. As they bartered for salt, a woman's hiss cut through. "That Jesse's new girl? Bet she's warmin' more than his hearth." A trader smirked. "Pretty face don't scrub floors." Emily's cheeks burned, and she ducked behind a barrel. Jesse turned, slow and deliberate, his voice ice. "She's my worker. You got words, say 'em to me or choke on 'em." The woman flinched, the traitor backed off, mumbling. Emily's breath caught, a fragile warmth blooming in her chest. Not pride, but a flicker of being seen. Back at the ranch, Emily folded the indigo blanket, her fingers tracing the shoe's worn leather. The locket in her sleeve felt heavier, a reminder of loss but also hope. Jesse hadn't spoken of the market, but his silence carried weight. Can Emily's quiet strength chip away at Jesse's walls? Or will her stumbles cost her the only home she's ever known? The Texas dawn broke over Willow Bend in 1874, painting the ranch with strokes of gold and rose. Jesse Kalin's homestead, a stubborn patch of cedar and dust 10 miles from town, hummed with the quiet rhythm of morning, chickens clucking, a distant horse whinnying. Inside the house, Emily, 18, swept the plank floor, her faded calico dress swaying with each stroke. Her auburn hair, now tied loosely with a scrap of ribbon, glowed in the sunlight streaming through a cracked window. Her hazel eyes, once dulled by fear, flickered with cautious hope, though the brass locket in her sleeve remained a heavy reminder of loss. The bruise on her jaw was nearly gone, but her hands, though calloused, still bore faint blisters beneath the leather shoes Jesse had left her. Weeks at the ranch had taught Emily to move with purpose, but mistakes still haunted her. She'd learned to stack firewood neatly, yet yesterday she'd spilled a jar of molasses, its sticky trail earning a curt grunt from Jesse. Sam, 6, watched her from corners, his chestnut curls framing brown eyes that never spoke. His silence, Jesse had said, began when his mother died, a wound Emily didn't dare touch. But she'd noticed Sam lingering, near the porch when she hung laundry, by the barn when she fed the hens. He never approached, a shadow trailing her steps. That morning, as Emily carried a basket of eggs to the kitchen, she began to hum, a soft, lilting tune her mother had sung in the Carolina hills, where fireflies danced and nights were kind. The note spilled out unbidden, soothing the ache in her chest. She didn't see Sam at the doorway, his small frame tucked against the wall, watching. Her voice faltered, but his eyes held no judgment, only curiosity. She smiled faintly and kept humming, setting the eggs down with care. At noon they rode to Willow Bend's market, a dusty sprawl of stalls and shouts. Jesse led, his black Stetson low navy flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, his olive skin catching the sun. Sam clung to his hand, his patched brown shirt flapping. Emily followed, her shoes steady, clutching a list for sugar and thread. As they haggled, a woman's voice hissed, sharp as a blade. "Jesse's girl, huh? Wonder what she's really doing out there." A trader chuckled. "Ain't cooking all she's good for, I bet." Emily's face flushed and she shrank behind a crate, her locket pressing hard against her arm. Jesse turned, his chestnut eyes cold as winter. "She works my ranch," he said, voice low but lethal. "You got filth to spew, aim it at me, or I'll shut your mouth myself." The woman paled, the trader stammered, and the crowd's murmur died. Emily's breath hitched, a warmth spreading through her, not victory, but the weight of being defended. Jesse didn't look at her, just nodded to the stall. "Get the sugar." She obeyed, her hands steadier, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Back at the ranch, dusk cloaked the fields in purple. Emily sat on the back steps, snapping beans, her hum rising again, soft as a breeze. She didn't notice Sam at first, curled in the grass, his knees drawn tight. He watched unmoving as her tune wove through the cricket's song. She paused, then started again, slower, her eyes on the beans. From her apron she drew a honey biscuit, baked that morning, and placed it on the step beside her, sliding it slightly toward him. Sam hesitated, then crawled forward, snatching it without a sound. He sat back, nibbling, his eyes never leaving her. Emily's heart lifted, but she kept her gaze down, snapping another bean. As she rose to carry the bowl inside, something glinted in the grass where Sam had been. She knelt, her fingers brushing a small pearl necklace, its clasp worn but intact. Her breath caught. It was no trinket, but a treasure, delicate and old, the kind a mother might wear. Sam was gone, but the gift remained a silent offering. She clutched it, her locket heavy in her sleeve, tears pricking her eyes. Unseen, Jesse leaned against the barn, his arms crossed, the lamp's glow catching his sandy beard. He'd come to check the gate and stayed when he heard her hum. His chest tightened, memories of another voice stirring in the dark. He turned away, boots silent, but his glance lingered on Emily's silhouette. Inside, Emily slipped the necklace into her apron, its pearls cool against her fingers. Sam's trust was a fragile thread, but Jesse's gaze held a spark she couldn't name. Can Emily's song and Sam's gift soften Jesse's guarded heart, or will the shadows of his past keep them apart? Night draped Willow Bend, Texas in a velvet cloak, the summer of 1874 softening under a crescent moon. Jesse Kalin's ranch, a weathered outpost of cedar and hope, stood quiet, its barn bathed in silver light. Inside the house, a single oil lamp flickered, casting golden pools on the rough-hewn table. Emily, 18, stood at the sink scrubbing a cast-iron skillet, her calico dress patched but clean. Her auburn hair, braided with a ribbon, shimmered faintly, her hazel eyes reflecting the flame. The brass locket in her sleeve pressed against her wrist, a tether to her past, while the pearl necklace Sam had given her hung gently around her neck, its weight a new kind of promise. Her hands, steadier now, bore the scars of work, but her heart trembled with a question. Did she belong here, or was she merely a guest in a stranger's home? Weeks had carved a fragile rhythm into her, days. Emily had mastered the stove, her cornbread earning a rare nod from Jesse, but doubts lingered. She'd caught Sam, 6, watching her more openly now, his chestnut curls framing brown eyes that held no words. His silence, a shadow of his mother's death, felt less like a wall and more like a door, cracked open by her songs. That evening, as she swept the porch, she'd hummed her mother's Carolina lullaby, the notes drifting into the dusk. Sam had lingered nearby, clutching a stick, his gaze soft. Jesse, mending a harness by the barn, had paused, his chestnut eyes catching hers before flicking away, a storm brewing beneath his calm. Now in the stable's lantern-lit hush, Emily brushed Juniper, the sorrel mare, her strokes steady. The air smelled of hay and leather, a refuge from her fears. She didn't hear Jesse enter, his boots muffled on the straw. He stood by the stall, his navy flannel shirt open at the collar, olive skin glowing under the light. "You're late, with the feed," he said, voice low, but his tone lacked its usual edge. Emily froze, then nodded. "I'll do it now." He didn't move, his gaze fixed on the mare. "She was my wife's," he murmured almost to himself. "Clara. She named her for the junipers back east. Said they were tough like her." Emily's brush stilled, her breath shallow. Jesse's eyes drifted to the necklace at her throat. "Sam gave you that, Clara's pearls. She wore 'em every Sunday." He exhaled, long and tired. She died bringing him into this world. Fever took her before dawn. Sam was barely breathing. I buried her under the cottonwood by the creek. He ain't spoken since. His voice cracked, raw with a grief he'd never shared. Emily stood silent, the locket heavy, her own mother's absence echoing in her chest. Jesse turned, his eyes meeting hers, unguarded for the first time. "You're not what I expected," he said softly. "This house, it's been a tomb, but you're a light in it. Sam sees it, I see it." Emily's pulse raced, her lips parting, but no words came. Jesse stepped closer, his calloused hand brushing the stall's edge. "You belong here, Emily. Not as a worker, but as—" He stopped, jaw tightening, as if the words burned. He turned away, boots scuffing the straw, and left her in the lamplight. Next morning, Emily found Sam on the porch, his small hands clutching a folded letter, its edges yellowed. He didn't look up, but when she sat beside him, he pushed it toward her. She unfolded it, her fingers trembling. It was a note written in a woman's delicate hand. "To my Sam. My heart. Forever." A lock of dark hair was tucked inside, tied with thread. Emily's throat tightened, tears blurring her vision. "Thank you," she whispered. Sam's eyes met hers, fleeting but warm, then darted away. At supper, Emily set a plate of barley bread, its crust golden, baked with care. Jesse took a bite, his nod slow but sure. "Good," he said, his voice quieter than usual. He lingered at the table, watching as Sam ate, then Emily. "You make this place less empty," he murmured, almost too low to hear. Emily's heart fluttered, the necklace and locket heavy with meaning. She was no longer just surviving. She was weaving herself into their lives, thread by fragile thread. But the weight of Jesse's words and Sam's trust pressed against her doubts. Can Emily truly heal this fractured family? Or will her own fears unravel the bond she's begun to forge? The Texas sky stretched cloudless over Willow Bend in the summer of 1874, its blue vastness mocking the storm brewing on Jesse Kalin's ranch. The homestead, a weathered sanctuary of cedar and resolve, stood 10 miles from town, its barn baking, under the noon sun. Emily, 18, knelt by the porch tending a feverish Sam, 6, his chestnut curls damp against his pale forehead. Her calico dress, patched but tidy, clung to her frame, her auburn hair braided tightly, her hazel eyes, once bright with hope, now clouded with worry. The brass locket in her sleeve and the pearl necklace at her throat, Sam's gift, felt heavier, anchors to a family she feared losing. Her hands, calloused but gentle, pressed a damp cloth to Sam's brow, her voice soft as she hummed a Carolina lullaby. Jesse had left at dawn, driving a wagon of calves to a buyer in the next county. A 2-day trip. Before mounting, he'd stood on the porch, his black Stetson low navy flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, olive skin gleaming. "Sam's been warm," he'd said, chestnut eyes sharp. "Keep him still. He'll try to hide it." Emily nodded, her voice steady. "I'll watch him close." Jesse glanced at Sam, crouched by the fence, then back to her. "Don't let him down." He'd tipped his hat and ridden off, the wagon's creak fading into the dust. By midday, Sam's fever spiked, his small hands hot, his brown eyes glassy. Emily settled him in the shade, brewing chamomile tea from the kitchen's herb jar. "Rest, honey," she murmured, brushing his curls. "I'll fetch more wood for the stove." She hurried to the shed, arms full of kindling, gone only minutes. But when she returned, Sam lay crumpled on the kitchen floor, a shattered jar of sorghum, at his side, its syrup pooling like blood. He'd climbed a stool to reach it and fallen, his arm gashed, his whimpers faint. "Sam." Emily dropped the wood, rushing to him. Blood seeped from a cut above his elbow, his shirt torn. She tore a strip from her apron, wrapping the wound, her hands shaking. "Why didn't you wait?" she whispered, cradling him. She cleaned the cut, cooled his fever with water, but guilt gnawed at her, a stone in her chest. By dusk, Sam rested on a cot, bandaged, his fever easing, but the house felt like a trap, its silence accusing. Jesse returned the next evening, dust trailing his wagon. His boots hit the porch, and his eyes darkened at the sight of Sam's bandage. "What happened?" His voice was low, a storm gathering. Emily stood, her apron stained. He was feverish. "I stepped out for wood, just minutes. He climbed for sorghum and fell." Jesse crossed the room in 2 strides, his Stetson casting a shadow. "You left him alone?" he roared, louder than she'd ever heard. "I told you to watch him. I didn't think he'd move," Emily stammered, hands raised. "He promised to stay." "Damn it, Emily." Jesse's voice cracked, raw with fear. "I trusted you. He could have broken his neck. I lost Clara. I won't lose my boy because I bet on the wrong person." Emily flinched, her lips trembling. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears welling. Jesse's face twisted, rage and pain warring. "Pack your things," he said, cold as iron. "You're gone by morning." Emily froze, her breath catching. "Jesse, please, you heard me." His voice was quieter now, but final. She nodded slow. the locket and necklace burning against her skin. That night she packed in the dark, a spare dress, her shoes, the ribbon from her braid. On the kitchen table she left a folded silk scarf, pale blue, embroidered with Sam's name in her careful stitches. Beside it, a note in her hand. For Sam, my heart always. She slipped out, the doors creak a final goodbye, her steps fading into the starless night. Dawn broke and Jesse woke to a house too still. No clatter of pans, no soft hum. He found the scarf and note, his fingers tracing Sam's name. His chest tightened, a weight he couldn't name. Sam sat on his bed, clutching the pearl necklace, his eyes red but dry. Jesse crouched beside him, voice low. She's gone, ain't she? Sam nodded, a single tear falling. Jesse's jaw clenched, the note crumpling in his hand. He'd driven away the light he'd called her, and the ranch felt emptier than ever. Can Jesse find Emily before the dust of his anger buries their chance at redemption? The Texas dawn of 1874 crept over Willow Bend, its golden fingers brushing the hills where Jesse Kalin's ranch stood, a testament to grit and grace. The homestead, 10 miles from town, glowed softly, its cedar walls warmed by the rising sun. But Jesse was not there. He rode hard across the plains, his black Stetson low navy flannel shirt damp with sweat, olive skin taut with urgency. His chestnut eyes, once guarded, burned with a singular purpose: to find Emily. The silk scarf she'd left, pale blue, embroidered with Sam's name, lay folded in his saddlebag, its weight heavier than the tin box at his belt. Behind him, the ranch felt hollow, its silence a wound he'd carved with his own anger. Emily, 18, sat alone in an abandoned barn on the edge of Willow Bend, a crumbling relic of beams and rusted nails, its roof open to the stars. Her calico dress, patched and dusty, clung to her frame, her auburn hair loose, catching the morning's first light. Her hazel eyes, red-rimmed but resolute, traced the horizon. The brass locket in her sleeve and the pearl necklace at her throat, Sam's gift, anchored her to a family she'd lost. She'd fled the ranch 2 nights ago, her heart shattered by Jesse's words, her scarf and note left as a farewell. The barn, a place she'd once passed with Jesse, offered shelter, but no answers. Was she truly nothing more than a mistake? Hooves thudded outside, and Emily stiffened. Jesse dismounted, his boots crunching on gravel, his silhouette filling the barn's broken door. I knew you'd be here, he said, voice low, rough with exhaustion. Emily stood, her hands clasped, the locket pressing into her wrist. I had nowhere else, she whispered, eyes on the floor. Jesse stepped closer, the dawn's glow catching his sandy beard. It ain't your fault, Emily, he said. Sam's fall. I was scared. I lost Clara, saw her fade in my arms. When I saw him hurt, I thought I'd lose him too. I blamed you because I couldn't face blaming myself. Emily's gaze lifted, tears brimming. You told me to go. Jesse's jaw tightened. I did, and I was wrong. I've spent years building walls thinking they'd keep us safe. But you tore 'em down. I didn't trust you, and I should have. He reached into his pocket, drawing a small silver ring, its band worn smooth. This was my ma's, he said, voice trembling. She gave it to me when I left home, said it was for someone who'd make me whole again. I ain't perfect, Emily. I bought you once, and that's a weight I'll carry. But I don't want you as a worker. I want you as my wife if you'll have me. Emily's breath caught, the necklace glinting as she stepped forward. I'm not the girl you bought, she said softly, her voice steady despite the tears. I'm stronger now because of you, because of Sam. Jesse nodded, his eyes warm. I know. You're the woman I love. He held out the ring, his hand steady. Emily hesitated, then placed her hand in his, the locket and pearls a quiet vow. The ring slid onto her finger, a perfect fit despite its age. Jesse pulled her close, his arms a shelter she'd never known. And for a moment, the barn was a cathedral, its broken beams sacred. They rode back to the ranch, Emily behind him on Juniper, her arms around his waist. Sam waited on the porch, his chestnut curls wild, brown eyes wide. He ran to them, stopping short, clutching the silk scarf. Emily knelt, her necklace catching the sun. "I'm home, Sam," she whispered. Sam's lips parted, and a small, scratchy voice broke the silence. "Emily." Jessie froze, tears welling as Emily hugged Sam, her heart full. The boy's first word in years was her name, a miracle born of trust. Months later, in the spring of 1875, the ranch bloomed anew. Emily, now Emily Kalin, wore a clean blue dress, her auburn hair braided, the ring and necklace gleaming. She taught Sam to read under the cottonwood, his laughter filling the air. Jesse, his flannel shirt patched, worked beside them, his smile unguarded. Willow Bend's whispers had softened. The town saw Emily not as a purchase, but as a pillar. Mara, the housekeeper, brought baskets of cornbread, her warm brown eyes crinkling with pride. Educational note. In 1870s Texas, women like Emily faced immense challenges. Often bound by poverty or family loss, many were sold into labor or marriage, their voices silenced by a patriarchal frontier. Yet, through resilience and community, women carved out roles as homemakers, teachers, and even ranch partners, shaping the West's heart. Emily's journey reflects this quiet strength, a testament to the women who built homes from dust. Thank you for joining us on this journey of heartbreak, healing, and hope. Emily, once a coin's worth, became the heart of a family, proving love is forged in trust, not transactions. Jesse, a man walled by loss, learned that opening a door is braver than locking it. If this story stirred your soul, hit that like button, subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories, and comment redemption to share your thoughts. Your support keeps these tales alive. How will Emily and Jesse's love reshape Willow Bend, and what stories will their family write in the years to come?